In today's video, I want to show you guys how you can achieve cinematic skin tones straight out of camera. For those of you that are new here, my name is Reno and I'm a filmmaker and photographer based out of Ballito, South Africa. Now the way that we're going to achieve these cinematic skin tones is by making use of the zebras feature in your camera. Let's have a look at how that works. Now at first glance, this might appear to be a well-exposed image. However, when I turn on the zebras, I'm going to show you why it's not the case. Now I've got my zebra set to 60 plus 5, and I'm going to explain the reason for that in just a little bit. What I want you to pay attention to here is the fact that the zebras are appearing across the top of my head. The objective here is to expose the skin to the point where the zebras disappear. Now at ISO 800, you'll notice that the zebras have almost completely disappeared and we're left with only a tiny little hot spot. I'm happy with this and I'll explain to you why in just a little bit. As far as I'm concerned, however, this is a properly exposed image as far as skin tones are concerned. At this point, I think it's best for me to explain to you what a zebra is, does, and why it's a reliable source of information when it comes to exposing your image. As you've probably noticed by now, a zebra pattern is a feature in camera that overlays stripes across your image in order to indicate the different levels of exposure of various areas. It's a feature that you can use when exposing your image to indicate what sort of brightness level different areas have. Now the zebras are linked to your IRE level. IRE is the measure of the video signal used on the basis of brightness. An IRE level of 0 would indicate pure black, and an IRE level of 100 would indicate broadcast white. If you take a quick look at this IRE reference chart, you'll notice that skin tones typically fall between an IRE level of 50 and 60, and on some charts that level would even go all the way up to 70 or 75. When I set up my zebras on my camera, I selected an IRE level of 60 plus 5. What this means is that the zebra stripes are going to appear across the parts of my image that have an IRE level of around 65. If I were to have set my zebra levels at 70 or 80, the stripes would have appeared at IRE levels of 70 or 80 across the image. In order to see the chart's reference values in action, let's take a look at a couple of films that have recently won Academy Awards for Best Cinematography and explore the IRE levels on the skin tones in these pictures. So the first film we're going to be taking a look at is this screen grab out of June, the next one from 1918, and the last one from Blade Runner 2049. So let's start with June. What we're trying to establish here is the way that the skin tones have been rendered in terms of exposure values. So I've created a power window that surrounds only the skin tone area in this image. I'm going to hit Shift H, and what that does is it highlights the part within the window, and here we're going to come and take a look at our scopes on the parade. Now in order to view your scopes in the same way that I am, I've come across here, I've gone waveform, scale, style, and percentage, so we're going to see the percentage that appears on the IRE level. As you can notice, the highest point is still below that 75 mark, and that's probably this hot spot that's up here on our actor's head. So I'm going to remove this so that you can see more clearly. We've got some hot spots over here, and I'm going to bring that back in. Again, IRE level is sitting between 75 and maybe it drops down to the levels of around 25 here, probably in those darker areas, perhaps across the eyebrows and the nostrils. If we take a look at the next image, I've got the actor's face highlighted here, just with my power window, and the exposure levels are sitting at around 50 to 40% most likely. And we go to our next image, and that is the scene from Blade Runner, and again, probably not much higher than 55 and drops all the way down to 12.5. I'm imagining that's these dark areas in the image on the left-hand side over here. I think that this does well to demonstrate that cinematic skin tone levels typically don't sit at an IRE level of much higher than 75. That's the reason that I've elected to set my zebra patterns to appear at around the 65% mark. If we come on in and take a look at that first reference frame that I set up for you, and we enable the power window and highlight just the area in the power window, we'll notice that the skin tones are peaking at close to the 80, perhaps 82.5 range, and I'm imagining that's this hot spot that's appearing on my forehead over here. These higher IRE levels across the skin tones is what I believe makes the image look less cinematic. Now you could always adjust this in post through your color grading process. However, our objective is to get the most cinematic looking skin tones directly out of camera. When we take a look at the image that I exposed, making use of the zebras, you'll notice that the IRE levels are peaking at a much more acceptable range. So I'm gonna highlight the power window area. Just there, it's peaking at below 75, which you'll notice was the highest level at which the June image was peaking as well. In summary, zebra patterns are a fantastic tool that you can use in order to get more cinematic looking skin tones straight out of camera. However, the value of the zebras doesn't end there. I frequently use the zebras as a reference tool in order to make sure that I haven't blown out different parts of my image. If you'd like to see a more detailed video on the different implementations that I have for the zebra features within camera, let me know in the comments down below. One more thing that's important to remember to do to get those cinematic skin tones straight out of camera is to be sure to set your white balance accurately. Let's take a look at a couple of clips that I've filmed, one with the correct white balance and one with an off white balance. Now the primary light source in the scene was daylight, however in the first series of clips I had set the white balance to cloudy. As you can see, the skin tones are a little bit too warm and that extends to the image overall. Now this series of clips is the exact same scene, however with the correct white balance. Notice how the skin tones are rendered far truer to life. In both of these clips I used the same method to expose by setting my zebras to 65 and dialing the stripes back just a little bit so that they weren't appearing on the skin itself. I hope that through this demonstration you can see the importance of setting your white balance in camera in order to render your skin tones most accurately. By using a combination of these two techniques, number one, using your zebras in order to set the levels of your skin tone correctly, and number two, making sure your white balance is set correctly, you're going to be able to get the most cinematic skin tones straight out of camera. If you found the information in this video helpful in any way, I'd really appreciate you considering liking and subscribing to the channel as I'll continue to roll out similar styled content. I'll catch you guys in the next video.